Hey guys, welcome to my Spellsword DPS guide. This is going to be a long one, so I've broken this guide into several sections. Feel free to jump around as needed, and I'll do my best to make the information as clear as possible. This information was all tested extensively by myself during beta and launch for accuracy. The first part of this guide will be focused on the melee spec Bladestorm. We're going to start by covering every skill in the Bladestorm spec. Heavenly Sword knocks down your target and everything in its immediate vicinity. It can be charged, and its charge level extends the knockdown an additional second per level. An additional effect that it has is its ability to deal heavy damage to, or instantly kill, certain monsters. This is extremely useful when fighting the hard mode exclusive boss in Raging River Ruins, as its full charge effect can instantly kill an ad that the boss summons. Field of Recovery Formation is a healing circle with a number of useful effects, and is one of the strongest party abilities in the game. It deals a small amount of healing in a circle, increases the healing received by everyone in the circle by 10%, and as a Bladestorm Spellsword, this ability has an additional effect. When an enemy or boss is knocked down to its golden shell being broken, and the recovery formation placed, all physical damage done to this boss, including party members, is increased by 5%. This ability can also be animation cancelled by any ability and in any order. This includes even when locked in the animation of Thousand Lights Start. Cloudshredder is a two-part attack and Bladestorm's current primary source of damage. It deals moderate damage and transforms your Black Blade and Cloudshredder into stronger versions of itself. It also costs one Ancient Blade to use. Black Blade becomes Frosty Sky style, which is a long-range attack that deals hefty damage and slows targets. It costs one Ancient Blade to use. Cloudshredder becomes Skyfall, which is one of our hardest hitting skills, and it also costs one Ancient Blade. Star Shower deals low damage and applies a small dot effect onto an enemy hit. This dot is called Cold Sky and stacks up to 3 times. It lasts 21 seconds. A successful hit of Star Shower regenerates 1 Ancient Sword, and it costs 30 sword mana to cast. Physical Limit is a passive effect that increases physical strength by 8% of your current haste. When you have the corresponding glyph, it doubles the percentage to 16% of current haste. Cloud Seal leaves a mark on the floor that will dissipate if you leave the map. Cloud Step teleports all nearby party members to the location of your Cloud Seal. Flickering Blade is a 10-yard dash that deals very low damage. It makes you CC immune and is your primary movement ability. Cloud Stop is a short-range interrupt that deals very low damage, and it has a cooldown of 12 seconds. Boundless Will is a massive buff. It gives 5% damage reduction to a party member and increases your physical attack by 3%. If you are over 40 yards away from your teammate, the buff nullifies and must be reapplied. When this buff is used on an enemy, you gain no damage buff and instead gain 2% lifesteal. All Will Be One is a passive effect that activates when Field of Recovery Formation or Blade Pentagram is used. This effect allows you to see invisible targets, and its only use currently is for PvP when there are enemy Reapers in stealth. Chaos and World's Beginning is a CC breaker. It also provides immunity to further CC effects for 6 seconds. It has a long cooldown of 45 seconds. Silent Snow Without Dust is a two-part ability. When used, it gives a damage buff called Selflessness for 18 seconds. During this time, your physical attack is increased by 10%. You regenerate Ancient Swords 50% faster. Your movement speed is increased by 30%, and you have immunity to slows. Because we take the Snow Swords glyph, Silent Snow Without Dust also instantly fills your Ancient Sword count. The second part of this ability can be used at any point during Selflessness. When activated, it instantly ends Selflessness and deals a tremendous amount of damage over a few seconds. You are immune to CC during this effect, and you reduce healing effects of targets hit by 40% for 6 seconds. Illusory Blade is a survival ability that deals moderate damage. When used, you become untargetable and unattackable for 2 seconds. It has a cooldown of 30 seconds. Cloud Shadow is another survival skill that instantly clears CC and applies the dodge buff to you for 6 seconds. If you are damaged directly by any source, it will be blocked entirely and your character will proceed to dodge backwards. While dodging, you are immune to damage, and you are immune to CC for 3 seconds after dodging. You will also regenerate a moderate amount of health. Traceless Cloud Forming is the standard Spellsword dodge and has a cooldown of 8 seconds. March in the Snow is the standard DPS Bladeheart. It gives 10% extra stats to all party members for 30 seconds. It has an internal cooldown of 5 minutes. Only use this ability in groups if asked to do so by your group. Thousand Light Start is your ultimate. It can only be used while an enemy is knocked down due to its golden shell being broken. It deals a tremendous amount of damage to the target and anything nearby. It locks you into a short animation when used, and you can still take damage while in animation lock. Field of Recovery formation can be used in animation lock to increase your team's physical damage by 5%. Attack in all directions marks a target within 20 yards. When used again, your character will dash to the target. If the target is stunnable, the target will be stunned for 3 seconds. If you fail to mark a target, the cooldown will be reduced to 3 seconds. Blade Pentagram throws a pentagram shape onto the floor. Any target that walks into the pentagram will be stunned for 3 seconds. You will also receive 1 Ancient Blade every 2 seconds for 10 seconds, or 2 blades every 2 seconds for 10 seconds if glyphed. Now, before we move on to the build, I want to address some widespread misinformation that Haste and Illumination are the way to go for Bladestorm. This is not true. This is true, however, for other regions in the game. The reason Haste is good in other regions is due to glyphs and changes to spells that have not yet occurred in NA or EU, but will occur in the future. The famous 313 method in other regions allows for a smooth rotation of Cold Sky stacks and allows them to be consumed at a faster rate, with more skills than NA or EU can. That, coupled with animation cancelling, allows this build to far surpass any other Spellsword spec. However, since we are unfortunately stuck with Illumination, the damage isn't anywhere as extreme as it could be. For those who are wondering about the haste needed for that build, and if you still want to play with the build, 10% haste will add 1 more tick to Cold Sky, and 20.1% will further add an additional tick. These percents are the breakpoints necessary to add additional ticks to Cold Sky, and any higher percent isn't feasible to get. Having any amount of haste between 0 to 9.99% and 10.1 to 20% are essentially wasted stats. It's better to gear around the breakpoint most easily accessible to you. Now let's move on to the current best build and stat priority for NA and EU. The best build is Almighty, Keeping the Peace, Demonblade, Snow Swords, and Cleansing Wind. The best glyphs are Floods of Clouds, Cloudbreak Wave, Bright River, and Path of Chivalry. I'll go ahead and explain the blessings and glyphs. Almighty increases the damage of your Black Blade and Cloudshredder abilities and their upgraded forms by 140%. In PvE, Cleansing Wind also deals 200% more damage. Keeping the Peace allows you to restore some additional sword mana when using Cloudshredder and its upgraded form. Demonblade is a hard-hitting ability that also buffs the Spellsword. It benefits from the effect of Almighty, increases the damage further of Demonblade and Black Blade, Cloudshredder, and their improved forms. It also gives the Spellsword a 5% crit buff and 30% critical damage increase. Snow Swords increases the rate at which you gain an Ancient Blade passively by 25%. When using Silent Snow without Dust, 5 Ancient Blades will be instantly restored to you, while under the effects of Selflessness, your physical attack is increased by 15%, and your physical limit's passive effect is doubled. Cleansing Wind is our last blessing. It is a 2-part ability. It marks your current target, and you briefly enter into an invincible state. When the ability is used, the invincible state ends, and you deal damage to the marked target that scales depending on its missing health percent. If the target is under 50% when used, it will also apply the illumination effect to the target. Illumination will clear all Cold Sky stacks on the target and deal damage equal to the amount of damage the target would have taken over 21 seconds from Cold Sky. This buff benefits from Cold Sky's Haste threshold that I spoke of earlier. For Glyphs, Floods of Clouds and Cloudbreak Wave give additional sword mana and ancient blades when you begin to run low on those resources. Bright River allows our blade Pentagram to restore twice the number of blades it would have given, from 5 blades to 10 blades. A quick note on Path of Chivalry. If you didn't know, Path of Chivalry gives 3 stacks for a total of 3% extra crit chance when you begin combat. Every time you dodge, you lose a stack, or 1% crit. This means that to maintain maximum DPS, you need to be very careful and aware of when you dodge. A stack is restored every 15 seconds. Moving on to stats, the priority is physical attack, followed by mastery, followed by physical strength, perception up to 100%, crit, and then haste. Keep in mind that perception has no current function if you're statted above 100%. This is because there is currently no enemy in-game that is 1 or more levels above Student 1. Next, we're going to move on to the most important part, the DPS rotation. In order to provide this information as easily as possible, I've listed all the initials for each ability in the video description, as well as the rotation on screen. I highly suggest that you slow down the video and watch each animation as it happens, or study the rotation in the description. It is vital that you follow this rotation as closely as possible, as it revolves around tight timings to do the amount of damage that it's supposed to do. Just as a heads up, Field of Recovery Formation, Boundless Will, and Cleansing Wind were not used in this rotation. Simply include these abilities when they are relevant. Cleansing Wind when the target is under 50%, Recovery Formation whenever it's needed for the encounter or when using Thousand Light Start, and Boundless Will likely be on your tank or melee DPS. Let's talk DPS in dungeons. A lot of bosses are annoying and that they damage melee players quite often, as well as jump around constantly. They also have a number of one-shot mechanics in hard modes. Luckily, the Bladestorm is able to deal with some of these quite consistently. In order to out-DPS range players, you need to make use of invincibility frames. Illusory Blade, Cloud Shadow, and Cleansing Wind are all able to provide invincibility frames to your character. Instead of moving away from that pesky one-shot mechanic, with a little timing, you can dodge them every time without sacrificing too much DPS. Keep in mind that if you miss time, you'll end up dead on the floor, and your GM will make you swap to range. Most of Bladestorm's damage can cleave nearby enemies. The problem with cleave, though, is it's a very short cone. This means that your damage on pack pulls are going to be on the lower end if your tank can't stack mobs together effectively. If they are stacked well, you'll keep up just fine. For food buffs, pagoda noodles are just fine. Richer players will want the exquisite fillet of fish. For elixirs, keen edge and versatility are great for Bladestorm. Keep in mind, these effects do stack, and they have separate cooldowns. Although, replace Keen Edge with Penetrate Stone if there are 2 targets or more that will survive a considerable amount of time. You can use a Rapid Healing to help your healers out. This auto-replenishes when you die, or you can use the Healing Elixir if you've got the cash. Hey guys, this is me while editing. I decided to split Sword Artist into a separate video as this would start to get too long for most people. Expect to see a video on the ranged Spellsword in the future. For now, I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe as it helps my channel out a lot. Let me know your thoughts or ideas for future videos in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys.